Hey guys, welcome to the Rox Queens Hyrox panel, Beyond the Hype, the true meaning of being a female Hyrox athlete. And I am delighted to be joined by a number of the Rox Queens here today who are going to tell us a little bit more about their experiences with the sport, starting with our fearless leader, Caitlin Robbins, who is behind a vast majority of the success of this community that she has created, but also joined by Natalie, Leah, and Kim, who themselves have had a huge part to play in the growth of the Rox Queens around the United Kingdom and further afield. But Caitlin, perhaps you can kick us off by just explaining to those who are watching a little bit more about what Rox Queens actually is and how it has found a home in Hyrox.
Definitely. So the Rox Queens is a community for female athletes who are participating in Hyrox, regardless of your ability, regardless of your sort of experience of Hyrox. Everybody is welcome. And it's both a support network, but also we meet in person once a month. So it's a really nice opportunity to get to know people who are training local to you, and then to meet friends as you go to races across the world.
The term hybrid athlete has become a little bit of a buzzword, but actually at its core, it means something really quite important. Perhaps open floor girls, what does it mean to you to be a hybrid athlete? Natalie, kick us off.
Thanks, Lauren. So for me personally, I think that a hybrid athlete is to be able to adapt to many different sports, be involved in lots of different areas of training, including running, strength, endurance, etc. I do agree, Lauren, I think it's become a little bit of a buzzword, and I think it means something different to each individual. What's interesting about it is when I speak to people who are not familiar with the term, there is a true belief out there that you can't be good at many different things and that you start to become a little bit mediocre when you start to become a hybrid athlete, which I think is quite an interesting view.
Yeah, the generalist over the specialist. Leah, what's your thoughts on what Natalie just said?
Very similar to Natalie, of being like, what's the word? Jack of all trades, master of none. However, I'm a firm believer if you direct the right attention, the right training, the right recovery, why can't you be exceptional at everything? Like, you shouldn't just have to specify just to one thing. And it's just about being adaptable, not just within sport, but also as well, it teaches you to be adaptable outside of sport as well, mentally and physically. So you can literally be ready for anything. So yeah, that's kind of what it means to me.
Kim, what does being a hybrid athlete mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, kind of echoing what the girls have said, I've definitely had some comments from other people who do different types of fitness, who kind of might even particularly potentially laugh at the fact that we call ourselves hybrid athletes and say that there's no skill involved in what we do, for example. But for me, it's like the opposite. And when you're working around people like us who have similar mindsets, you actually feel like everybody feels the complete opposite. We're the people that can do everything because we don't just train for one thing, like Leah said. We're not just putting ourselves in one box, so therefore you can adapt so easily to anything, really. And I think that's just a great place to be, because your tastes in what you want to do over the period of your lifetime will change at some point. So if you're able to pick something new up very easily because you haven't just pigeonholed yourself, then that's a great advantage to have. And that's why we had seen like people will come into the sport at an elite level from other sports and do really well. So I think it's fantastic.
I feel like there's a hybrid athlete, like the thing that we do, but there's hybrid athlete. It's so much wider than that, because it's creating communities of people that all have like-minded interest, and doing so creating a healthier environment for people and females to get together and thrive. It's a space. What are your thoughts, Caitlin?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it allows that versatility. So yeah, you can try different sports, and Hyrox encompasses that, right? Like it's strength training, and it's running, and it's endurance. It's almost like, if you think of the body like a musical instrument, like to keep it in tune, you sort of have to try all these different things. And it keeps it interesting, you know, that you can sort of try sports and see and challenge yourself. So yeah, I think it's a powerful thing. I think it's a challenge to actually be able to sustain it from my perspective anyway. But these girls in the pool are very, very good at doing it. So keen to learn from them.
Is there any good starting stories? Where did you find hybrid training and Hyrox kind of more probably as a specific endpoint? Leah, have you got a good story?
So mine's a little bit deep. So I've known about Hyrox since it come across to the UK through COVID. Just because I was always interested in sport, was an outsider in terms of sport, so I'd never felt like I should do it. I was never got the sporty one in school. Then COVID hit, started doing fitness, went the cutting, bulking route, and then come out of COVID, started looking at a bit more, got a bit more interested, started training more hybridly, started my running, started lifting, still a bit more physique based, and then my mum passed away suddenly, so then I needed a focus, and I thought life's too short, like let's go and do it. So I booked Hyrox, and the rest is history, to be honest with you, Lauren.
Did you find a support system there as well? Was it
100%? Like I felt like I belonged, and I felt like do you know how people say they found the tribe? That was the situation. So it was really, really nice, and I've met like the girls on the call now, like sisters. I've met people who are slightly older but still as fabulous and incredible at racing, who are like my mums. Like it's just incredible, absolutely incredible.
Kim, Natalie, how did you both start?
I mean, similar thing. Like I was playing other sports beforehand, and I didn't think I was like fit enough to do something like this, but then joined a specific gym that was looking to get a group of people to go down to Hyrox just after COVID. And I think that group mentality where we're all in it together, we didn't know what it was. We all just did it together. Most of us did it in pairs. We still had no idea what it was. It was a lot quieter back then. So you could all go on the same day, compete on the same day, and, you know, keep that group mentality. And as soon as we did it, we were like, book the next one, you know. And you suddenly had something to work towards. So that next race was in London, was 6 months' time. So you were like, great, I can start training now to do a solo race. And then, but it never in my wildest dreams thought that I would be someone that was being competitively racing. I was just doing it because I enjoyed it. And then kind of 3 seasons later, I mean, we were all at the World Championship. So it's crazy how quickly you can develop. And yeah, we just become a bit obsessed with it, I think.
It almost like self-drives your motivation, right? You do one, you see where you are, you have a time, then you go to your next one.
You have this halo effect after the race where you're like, I've got to do another one. And then about a month later, you regret it. And you're like, why am I doing that? But it's that minute after the race, you're just like, I'm going to do it again. Yeah. And you kind of go in peaks and troughs with it, definitely.
I feel like you chase those highs.
Yeah, for sure.
That beautiful moment after a race, but also the experience of doing it with everyone around you and all your friends.
It's our addiction. Yeah.
Natalie, addicted?
Very addicted, yeah. I kind of fell into Hyrox accidentally, Lauren. So last year I accidentally fell into running, and I'd become quite good at running. So I did a couple of marathons, and I never considered doing a Hyrox. It was everybody else who was saying, you'd be all right at Hyrox because you're good at running. So I kind of accidentally fell into it. But Leah will back me up here. I'm probably the worst person in terms of booking every single race when they get released, but you are always chasing that runners or event high. One of the things that has been a key kind of standout for me is last year when I first started running, I said there's no way the running community can be beat. Such a fantastic community. And when I looked at the Hyrox community initially, I did feel a little bit intimidated, and I felt like I wasn't going to fit in because I wasn't really this hybrid athlete who was great at everything. And, you know, it's unmatched. The friends that I've met along the way have just been outstanding. And you do genuinely feel like you're part of one big family. So that's been a big key takeaway for me. But I'll just continue to book every race going because I'm so addicted to it. It's ridiculous.
I have to ask, you said that you fell into it and it was accidental. You said that about 3 times in that sentence. Like, how do you accidentally fall into running?
So I accidentally, well, it wasn't an accident. I was on a call with a friend who'd been trying to get in the London Marathon for like 7 years. And he said, I've just put myself in for London Marathon. I don't think I'm going to get in. And I thought, I'm just going to chuck my hat in the ring. And I'd only ever run like a 10K before, not even a race. And I put in for my first London Marathon ballot and I got in first time. So that's how I started running. I thought, right, I'm in now. It's a sign. You need to start. So I did London Marathon in April and I got that addicted. I then did Berlin Marathon in September. So that's how I accidentally, undeliberately ended up running.
I love it. I love it. Caitlin, you must hear these stories all the time. You know, you've created this huge community of female hybrid athletes that race in Hyrox and other events. I mean, was your journey somewhat similar? Or is like, how much variety are you seeing from people in terms of their journey into the sport?
Yeah, I think the stories are key. I think there's a common theme. I think everyone's been through a personal challenge, some sort of maybe pain in some way, and it's people who are wanting to use that and channel it for good, and people who want to improve themselves. And it's super inspiring. You know, I think we are at ages now where you have that choice, and you have maybe done the partying and you've wasted time and energy doing that. I mean, it's fun, but this is so much more fulfilling. So I think that is kind of where we're all at. And yeah, similar souls find each other. So that's what it's all about. And I think, you know, I was going through a breakup, and that was my pain that I kind of wanted to channel into actually sort of positioning and putting myself forward. So I think that was kind of part of it, and just wanting to try something new. Like I'd tried F45 and kind of class-based stuff, but training for a goal and for a competition is so much more rewarding. So yeah, I think that's definitely part of it.
Whole group, all say at once, your one-word answer. How hard is the training for Hyrox?
Hard.
Long.
So like, how do you keep motivated, Natalie? Like, how do you keep driving forward when actually it takes a huge amount of resource and life to actually continue to train to be good at this sport, or, you know, to fulfill your own expectation?
Yeah, I think for me, Lauren, it's all about looking at the bigger picture and thinking a little bit more long term on those days when you're waking up and you're not feeling like you want to go and get in your training session. I wake up, you know, probably 80% of my days, I wake up and I don't have motivation, but I have got discipline. So if you continue to focus on your longer term goals, that'll give you your kick then to make sure you do get that motivation from somewhere when your discipline does kick in. But I don't think anybody on this call will disagree. It's tiring. It's hard to juggle and it's hard to fit everything in.
Would you say, Kim, discipline is like a learned skill, or do you think it's something intrinsic that only certain people have?
No, I think you can learn it for sure. Yeah, I think if you want something enough, you're motivated enough to put yourself, because it's that thing of saying, I know that if I get myself out the door and to the gym, I know that I'm going to benefit from it, and I know that actually I'll come away feeling better. And so I think that it's kind of that reward system that, you know, if you're training a pet, for example, there's a reward afterwards. You know, do something well, you get a treat, and it's kind of like you were saying about chasing that high of a race or an event, but you get that high after you've done a great session. Today, I only had a quick hour lunch break, so my workout could only be 30 minutes, and I've just been off for the last month, so I was like dreading it. Also thinking, oh, it's only half an hour, but then afterwards, I walked back with like, I won't even tell you what I was listening to. And I'm just walking down the street, like in the middle of like quite a miserable July with just my sweaty sports bra and shorts on. People are looking at me like, what is this girl? I'm boiling hot. But I'm just like loving life. I've got this motivating song in my ears, feeling great after this workout, and just like bowling down the street, feeling amazing. And so it's that high that you get along the way as well. It's not just from the event. When we say we're addicted, we actually genuinely are, like on a daily basis. So it's that learned behavior, I definitely think, from knowing how many sessions you have to get through in that week, for sure.
You know, you are going to have to tell us what that song is.
Oh my God, it's actually a score from the Rocky film, but I took it. Actually, I haven't seen the Rocky films. Don't tell any guy that. It's from. Has anyone seen the Wrexham documentary? And when they get promoted for the first time, there's a score from. It's called "Going the Distance" by, I think it's Bill Conti, and it's just such a great score. Like great gym motivation music. It's great. I'm weird like that.
That's amazing. Leah, when you are knackered, when life is just like hitting you hard and you know you've got a training session to do, mentally, where do you go to get through those moments?
Oh, like Do you know what? Like Kim and Nat have said, that for me, you become addicted to the training. You know that's what's going to help you feel better. So it's like for me, even if I'm having a really, really bad, long, tiring day, and I get up in the morning to go and train, and I'm like, the weather's outside. It's always raining in Manchester and cloudy and like it's always. And it's like I've got a run to do, and it's like, do I really want to get up? And it's like, well, yeah, because as soon as you finish that run, you're going to feel better. And it's like, for me, my training is my time, and that's the only time I get for myself. So you do become a little bit obsessive, addicted to having that time to yourself, because when you've got busy lives, when life's getting to you, that's the only coping mechanism I've got, because I don't drink, don't do drugs, I don't smoke. Like, the only thing I have got is training and Hyrox. So it's either I do it and I feel great afterwards and push through, or I don't do it and I feel like it. So you can choose the two. Yeah, beep. Sorry.
I'm glad you. I am very glad that your coping mechanism is very much something that's directing you towards a life of health, as opposed to the other things you mentioned. But like, I mean, you've all said like this is like your therapy. This is your kind of solace, which I think training is for a lot of people. But like Caitlin, when you then hit a blocker, a bend in the road, whether that be an injury or perhaps life has just got on top of you, you can't get out and train. Like, how do you deal with those moments?
Yeah, I think this is when communities like Rox Queens really come into force, because it's that reminder that you're not the only one that goes through this, and there are people out there that can support you. And just kind of reaching out to somebody, or just these guys, we all follow each other on Instagram, and I think that's really beneficial, because it's that reminder, although accountability, but also the reminder, people are very honest about when they're going through those struggles. So I think, yeah, that really helps me. And then I actually learned this from Rebecca Mason, but even just having like a training diary has really helped me, because now I look back and it's not just about the actual weight that I lifted, it's also that reminder, like I can do hard things, like I was not feeling motivated on that day, but I still showed up. And it's quite easy to forget that journey. You get quite fixated on the now, but actually having that reference point has been really beneficial for me.
That's awesome. Right. Next portion, we're going to break down the groups a little bit. So we're going to say goodbye very briefly to Leah and Kim. And Natalie, we're going to delve in a little bit more to lifestyle. So perhaps you can kick us off and walk us through your typical day as a hybrid athlete.
A hybrid athlete typical day. Okay, so my typical day starts about 4:30 a.m. I am a fully fledged 5 a.m. clubber. And as Leah said earlier, the first part of my day is my time. It's when my son's still in bed, nobody from work can bombard me. And the first part of my day is when I get my training done. And that is a non-negotiable for me. I'm really clear on what that non-negotiable is for the day. So that might involve a run, whether it be outside or a treadmill. It might involve a little bit of strength training at the gym, but it's ticked off before I have to start dealing with the day-to-day stress of being a mum and working full time. And then the big chunk of my day is spent, I've got quite a high pressure job in the corporate world. So it's either spent working from home or working in the office, spending time with stakeholders or teams. And then in the evening, it's about ticking off my adult jobs, my non-negotiables, looking after my son, getting caught up on life admin, and anything that I don't manage to do in the daytime from a fitness point of view, I'll catch up on that in the evening as well. I very rarely go to bed. I'm a bit boring. I very rarely go to bed any later than 9:30 in the week. I am such an elderly person in that space. I love it. But to make sure I get sufficient amount of sleep so I can recover well, I need to make sure that I get that sleep in so I can go again the following day.
I feel like 9:30 bedtime is the absolute dream.
It is the future. Early nights.
Early
night? What's your bedtime, Caitlin?
I have to say I'm not that disciplined as Nat. Yeah, do you know what though? It's so interesting because I'm sure lots of people can relate to this, but like we read so much on like things to improve our health, and we do all this, we go and we invest that time, but sleep is something which is free, and it's something that I think people really don't prioritize myself, I put my hand up for that. And the benefits of it, I know, are second to none. Like Nat said, for recovery, it is a habit, it's a discipline. You know, I'm looking at my phone or I'm working late, and then you kind of get into a cycle where the next day, you know, you're tired, and then you have a lot of caffeine, and then you can't sleep. So definitely something that I'm working on for the remainder of the year.
So you have to prioritize sleep. You have to look after your kids if you have them. You've got big girl boss jobs in the city. Like, this is a full-blown juggling act, and we all know how much time you need to spend on your training when you're doing this sport. How do you begin to like juggle that in life?
It is hard, Lauren. It is safe to say it is difficult. I think making sure that you are clear on your non-negotiables and being really strict with your time, but not too restricted to the point where you're not living your life as well. Like, I swear by Google Calendar, everything is in like half an hour intervals. Yes. I'm a bit OCD with that. And also what really helps me is just being really clear with my family and my friends around what my priorities are. So if I've got an event coming up, my family and my friends understand if I can't make it out for that evening meal, or I've not managed to get enough training sessions in and I can't attend something that I've agreed to attend. So I think that's really important for me. Be clear on your non-negotiables, make sure you're structured in terms of your diary, make sure your family and your friends are well in the know of what's going on.
I imagine it comes with a few sacrifices as well.
It does. My biggest sacrifice is going out with the girls. So my friends like to party, safe to say. And my biggest sacrifice over the last kind of 12 to 18 months, when I've been really taking my training seriously, has been going out partying, socialising, even going to meals when they're going on till late in the evening. As we know, it interrupts your sleep. You're not going to want to get up in the morning for that 6 a.m. 10-mile run on a Sunday that you've promised yourself that you're going to do. So rather than let yourself down, my preference would be to just say no. But I am trying to get the balance a little bit better this year, Lauren. I am attending more things, and I'm trying to adopt more of a balanced lifestyle rather than being so restricted, because I don't want to hate training at the same time. Like, it's great that we're able-bodied enough to be able to train. We're very lucky. I want to make the best out of both worlds.
Is there any advice, both Caitlin and Nat, like that you would give to someone about balancing their schedules whilst trying to do training like this, and like what's required?
I'll let Caitlin go.
So Nat mentioned time blocking. Like, I agree, that's been a godsend for me. And I think in terms of other things that have helped, I would say I do it in like not only blocking the day, but also like if I'm planning for a few months ahead, like that is time that I'll sacrifice, but I'll always make sure that I have a reward at the end. So for me, it's not just about the race, it's about going to a new city, and it's about having a holiday after, and it's about going with friends. And then it becomes so much more rewarding because, you know, it's so much more to it, and you're sharing it with people.
Guys, thank you so much. Natalie, thank you so much. I'm going to let you go and have a wee relax as we bring Leah back in. Do you have a nice little break, Leah? You feeling fresh, ready to go?
Refreshed and ready.
So, structures of training week. When you're putting it together, the nature of being hybrid means we need to focus on lots of different things. Mm-hmm. How do you break that up? Like the running to the fitness to maybe other sports you do just because you like to do them?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually have a coach. She does it all for me. So I don't have to have any of that thinking time because I'm a coach myself. Like Nat and Caitlin have just been saying, time blocking is so important. And as a business owner, I've learned how to delegate things that I don't need to necessarily do. Like, yes, of course, I can program myself. It's what I do on a daily basis for hundreds of women every single day. However, when it comes to myself, I just want someone to just tell me for me to go and do it. I actually have Dina Hogan as my coach, so obviously,
she's a legend.
She knows what she's doing. So as you know, whatever Dina says, that goes. So that makes my life so much easier, and it just manages it so much better. So when I also come up to a racing season, so like obviously we're in pre-season now at the minute, like I know I've done everything in my power to get there. So psychologically, I feel so much better when I step up to that start line as well. So yeah, that's kind of that was an answer, but not an answer at the same time. If that makes sense.
But the coaching thing's really interesting. At what point in someone's journey do you think it's a viable time for them to potentially get a coach?
Genuinely, go from the start. Like, classes are great. Like, they're great for the community, but don't just don't rely your training just on the classes, because I'm not going to lie, Hyrox is an endurance race. It is quite an intense sport. It's not one of them things where you should rock up to with zero training. So I would recommend that even alongside your classes, even if it's like one-to-one personal training, online coaching, even just a cheap plan online, like just something to get you going, to give you a bit of a structure, highly recommend it. But if you're wanting to really be confident in yourself, invest in a coach, because yes, it's an investment, but what's more important, you to invest in yourself, not get injured, don't get burnt out, manage your week a lot better so you don't have the thinking time, and be optimal with your training performance, or end up having to sell your ticket at the last minute because you've burnt out, you're injured, or even worse, in the race you get put off by it because it's too much of a struggle for you. Like, for me, I'd rather invest, to be honest.
When you're working with Dana and you're kind of, I know she'll probably largely have an idea for your direction, you know, how much is she bringing in influence from other sports and other elements of training to give you an all-around program, like almost like the pure basis of hybrid, being able to kind of do both strength but aerobic and pulling it all together in one race?
100%. So obviously we have speed work in there. We work on the speed. We also then have things like Olympic lifting, where you're working on power and speed with lifting weights. You're building that up within the muscle tissues, and then when it comes to race day, it's translated quite effectively. So you've got the power to run and also lift at the same time. But then also as well, looking at like sprinters, like how runners then translate the speed, and then longer distance runners for building the endurance, going up to half marathon distances involved within training to really be able to build that up. So when race day comes along, it's a hell of a lot bloody easier.
Is it something that you enjoy? Just the variety of what you're able to kind of accomplish on a weekly basis?
Yeah, because I didn't think this was ever going to be me. I absolutely love it. Like, I'm just like proving to my younger self that I can do it, and proving to my younger self that, yeah, I do belong in sport. Like, it's mad, but then it's like, I think of Hyrox and hybrid fitness as like an adult sports day. That's all it is. It's the adult sports day, the course. That's all it is. So for me, it's just bringing that childhood back, but in a more positive way than I thought it was when I was younger as well, which is so fun to look at it like that. Because we are big kids, aren't we, at the end of the day?
Leah, thank you so much for your insight there. That's awesome. Like, lush to hear from you. Do not go anywhere though, because we are going to get everyone back together at the end of this call. But I am going to let you have a little break and bring in Kim Mansell. Kim, to be honest, to speak about something quite similar, the structure of training weeks, because that in itself kind of comes with a whole host of things that you need to consider, especially when it comes to accommodating real life in the process as well, and all the elements that are associated with hybrid fitness.
Yeah, it's hard, you know, because there's different ways, I guess, to be a hybrid athlete, like we always said at the start. So how we train for Hyrox is one version of being a hybrid athlete, but hybrid just means a combination of different things, right? It depends what you're doing, but taking it from a Hyrox perspective, because that's what we do, you know, it's not just about your weekly workouts, it's about how you structure the lead up to your race as well, to make sure that you're ready for that race, for that event. So you'll go through whole blocks, and then within each block you need to then figure out what you're going to do within those weeks, and making sure that you fit everything in the right time to be able to, in whatever it is, 3 months, 10 weeks, you know, in Nat's case, every other weekend perhaps, you've got that race to go to. You need to make sure that you're at your peak for that race. And have you done everything you possibly can in that time? So, you know, Nat said at the start that she was a runner before. I had the exact opposite experience. So I did no running before I started doing Hyrox. So yeah, I mean, and I think you find people are one or the other. And I do say to people now, like, if you're a really good runner, you'll do well in Hyrox, same as what Nat was saying at the start. But that wasn't me. In fact, I did 2 Hyroxes before I even started doing any running training, and then very quickly realized I need to do about 3 runs a week because I need to actually improve my running more than the average person to be able to keep up. I'm good at the kind of hip side of things. I'm good at the muscular endurance side of things. That's always been a natural thing for me. So you can come with your own natural strengths, and then you'll have to work on those weaker parts, but then you've got to not forget to continue working
Keep
on those.
working.
Yeah, exactly. So many different parts. Not only is 60% of it roughly running, you've got 8 different components then to work on as well. And there's a lot of focus. At one point there was a lot of focus I saw on social media of people saying about doing upper body work. And actually you'll find upper body work isn't really in a Hyrox for many women, because men can stand there and pull a sled with their arms only and work their lats. Yeah. But actually most of the time we're very different. So in fact, if I'm training people off my own training, I kind of neglect the upper body stuff a lot. Shoulders not so much, because we're going to need those at the end when you're literally dying. But there's just so many different ways to approach it, and it does come down to tailoring that process, which is why Leah said the importance of having a coach who can really guide you through it is really important.
Yeah, you've literally nailed my intro to the sport, where I do no running. And then I was quite happy with all of the elements, but I did 2 races and went, oh, I really better integrate running into my program. And now I run 3 times a week for that exact purpose, that actually I just need to get used to like the regular running. But alongside it, and I will happily admit this, my nutrition is dubious at best.
Yes.
Caitlin,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can kind of give us a little bit of insight as to kind of maybe what a hybrid athlete would look to do in terms of nutrition.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, and it'd be great. I know Leah is a qualified nutritionist, so I'm sure she can speak more from this. But I guess from my perspective, like, I find that I have learned the power and importance of fueling correctly. So I think, I know that some female athletes like tend to want to restrict their eating from an aesthetic standpoint when it comes to training. But when you're doing Hyrox, like the intensity of that training, to really get the most out of it, having that fuel and doing it correctly is so important. I personally find that like I get so much more out of the workout if I fuel correctly. So I've worked with a nutritionist to understand like timings for that as well. So how sort of soon or before my workout to fuel, and just finding kind of what works best for my body. So even like for me personally, I take gels when I'm racing in Hyrox, and I've kind of learned through practice like what particular stations, like for me after the rower is when I take my my gel, because that's when me personally, my legs are most fatigued. So yeah, that's really helped me just to kind of unlock that maybe next level. So yeah, I think you definitely can't underestimate the importance of nutrition.
I mean, the good thing is, well, if you're a hybrid athlete, you can eat all the carbs. That's the best thing about being a hybrid athlete, because you burn so much, you can eat all the carbs. So when you suddenly start doing some different training, you realize you can't eat the carbs. It's actually quite scary. Go back to hybrid training, 100%.
Maybe we just bring Leah back in momentarily there. Leah, if you were starting out, is there like a base bit of advice when it comes to nutrition that you could give?
110%. So like just echoing what basically Caitlin has said, and Kim, do not be scared of carbs. Like, girls, do not be scared of the carbs. But more importantly as well, like if you're transitioning from more of a weight-based training like myself, like Kim, like you, Lauren, to then going into more hybrid and integrating the running, the more endurance-based things like heavy wads and ergs, like you're going to really risk yourself becoming injured and burnt out, because your main basis of your recovery is actually from your nutrition as well as your sleep. Like our most restorative place in the day is in sleep, but then to accessorize that, your nutrition has to be on it to make sure that it is actually recovering your body. If you don't get enough of the right things in, in terms of good quality food, not just relying on like your protein shakes and like your protein yogurts and stuff like that to get that type of food in, because that's all that's been ingrained to us. Actually make sure that you get good quality food in there, making sure you get in the rainbow in, as everybody recommends. But as well, like, make sure you get like the fats in, and that's not just like olive oils and stuff like that. Get your bloody pastries in, get like your cookies, get your chocolate in, like things like that are going to make you feel a lot better. And as a woman as well, something that Nat's probably going to be able to understand, like speak on behalf of as well, is that around our cycle as a female, it's so easy to, when you increase intensity within your training, if your recovery is not 100%, you're risking losing your cycle. Now, that long term isn't a good thing. Some girls are like, oh yeah, it's absolutely fine, but for you as a person, it's not a good thing at all. You're risking a hell of a lot for your future just for the sake of this now. So I cannot stress enough how important it is to really dial in on your nutrition and actually probably eat, if you're not tracking calories or you're not logging it and like doing it like actually for number, just keep a food diary of what you're eating. Have your 3 meals a day, have a pre-workout, have a post-workout. Make sure you're hydrating your body enough as well, because that's super, super important. So yeah, that's kind of like where I'd start from. Bit in depth, but you need to know the information.
No, it's honestly, it's so helpful with all of these things like nutrition, like whether you get a coach, whether you don't get a coach, whether you've just started racing training. Kim, like, how do you know you're ready to race? And
yeah, I mean, it can be super daunting for newbies to Hyrox. I think I hear on a weekly basis at the moment people coming to me saying, I really want to do a Hyrox, but they come to my Hyrox classes and they're like, I could never do a Hyrox. I'm like, of course you could, like anyone can. If you go to any Hyrox race, you'll see people of all sorts doing Hyrox. You know, people that will take double the length of time as other people. That's fine. The fact that you're challenging yourself is fantastic. And so you might not ever feel ready, but I always suggest people go and do a doubles first. So you have that mentality of like having a support system with you the entire way around. You have those little bits of rest, because if you're thinking that your first race might take you over an hour and a half, then that is double the length of the average gym class, for example. And in a gym class, you're probably warming up for 5-10 minutes, warming down for the last 5 minutes. So actually your workout is probably 30 to 35 minutes. So if you're hard slugging away for over an hour and a half, it can be, you know, not a nice place to be. Definitely go and do a doubles first. In terms of like when you're ready in terms of your calendar year, like I kind of alluded to, I don't race as often as other people. I've been in that place where I've raced like every month for like 4 or 5 months. It's not advisable from my perspective, because you just don't have the time to, like Leah said, recover properly. Not just recovering from your training from last night and eating well, but that recovery after like putting your body through so much in a race. You need that downtime afterwards, and then your body needs time to adapt and progress and get back to that peak performance, and then deload before you race again. So optimally, between each race, you need to have about 6 weeks, a week off, 4 weeks of training, and then a deload week. That's the minimum you should be having. If I was doing it, I am doing it in my book, I would do 14 weeks between a race. I think is a really good amount, because you have those 3 blocks that you can do again with a week either side, in case you're away for a week as well. So, you have to get that deload in as well, and just think it gives you plenty of time to not be panicking about the next race, and I feel like you can progress for the next one rather than just doing race after race after race.
Obviously you're kind of coaching other people as well as looking at yourself. I feel like if you listen to this and you weren't necessarily into the sport, this could seem like quite daunting. Like there's lots, and I think that's the same for a lot of female athletes looking to get into sport. I don't think it's literally just around hybrid fitness, but how do you go about, especially for those newbies, making it fun?
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. I mean, I would always say go to a gym where they're doing Hyrox classes. I mean, it's pretty much every gym in the UK now, so it's not hard to find one. Go and do a class, and you'll meet other people that are doing it and push you through those workouts. And then the more you do that, the more that mentality sticks in your head, and you're like, I can do this. But also, you find someone else to do it with. I didn't know the person that I did my first Hyrox with. I met her on the night at the gym. I was like, my first Hyrox class. We're jogging down the road, and she's like, "Do you want to partner up? Because I haven't got a partner." I was like, "For what? What is this?" And we literally were doing a Hyrox in 3 months later. But it built that connection between us, and then that connection we then celebrate afterwards, and then we go to the next one. So definitely go and join a community. Join the Rox Queens, obviously. So if you don't have a gym near you, for example, we have this community where people are always on our WhatsApp group asking for advice. Literally today, someone's like, "Where can I get a program?" And the amount of times that question has been asked on this WhatsApp group, you could probably scroll back and find loads of recommendations. But someone who's come into the group asked it again. There are no stupid questions, and literally no one's bored of saying, "I suggest this person, I use this person." We're all there to support each other. I get asked a lot what trainers to wear. Well, I wear these trainers, but please go and get, yourself assessed. Obviously there's a lot of coaches in that community that can give that advice. And it's great that Caitlin, had that foresight to kind of start it and bring thousands of women together in the sport.
There is nothing better than a fitness-based WhatsApp group and the crazy conversations that happen on it. Kim, relax. We'll see you a little bit later. Natalie, on the subject of hybrid athletes, female hybrid athletes, I feel like lots of people have come across this term over the internet or, through a friend of a friend. And they were like, okay, so then it's in their mind, right? They're scrolling social media and they see it hashtagged on lots of photos, and they see lots of influencers, they see lots of phrases, lots of black and white branding and big finishes. And like, I feel like there is a presence of what a hybrid athlete, especially a female hybrid athlete, should be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in both of your minds, like, what is that representation, and how does that maybe not necessarily reflect the reality?
I think with social media, Lauren, it's a powerful but very dangerous platform at the same time. Probably 90% of the accounts that I follow probably post the good, not the bad and the ugly at the same time. And I'm quite lucky that a lot of the ladies that I've recently connected with through Rox Queens are a lot more transparent around the struggles as well. So for me personally, from a female point of view, as Leah mentioned earlier, the load, the stress on our hormones, on our menstrual cycle can lead to damage. It can lead to short-term and long-term problems. And I don't think recovery is spoken enough about through social media, and also talking about the struggles around how do we fit in all of these sessions. So I love it when I see, influencers, and they do like a weekly roundup of all the great things that they've achieved in the week, and they've done this session and they've had this food, but no one talks about the fact that they woke up at 5 a.m. They really didn't want to do the session. A curveball came in throughout the day and they weren't able to fit it in. Nobody really admits to that bit. So I'd love to sit here and say that it's accurate, Lauren, but as with everything on social media, you see what people want to post, and I don't think it's always a true reflection of the hard bits of being a hybrid athlete. I don't know, Caitlin, if you agree with that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think that's why, Rox Queens is so great, because like we said, you get those stories and that accountability. But I think for me, the hybrid athlete means that when an opportunity comes about, like a race, and someone says, "Can you jump in?" Like, you can, because like you're sort of ready and willing to. And that whether that's like anything from a Tough Mudder to like a 10K, that you can at least give it a go. And I think that in itself is super empowering.
And I imagine, well, I don't imagine, I know that with social media, actually it makes a lot of those opportunities even easier to meet people you didn't meet before, and to suddenly end up in a race with a doubles partner you'd never met. And actually, whilst social media can be quite a dark place as well as a good place, it actually connects people quite well.
Yeah, it's so powerful in that respect. And the community, if we use Rox Queens as an example, set up in January, Caitlin, is that right? And we've got thousands of women now following from all over the world, which is just unbelievable when you think about it. So yeah, from a community point of view, such an amazing tool to have. And like you said, you know, Caitlin, if you want a doubles partner, you'll get one through social media.
Yeah, you will. What about body image? Like, no shying away, I'm a slightly bigger girl and I look at fitness influencers and think, you know, I still do this, but I don't look like that. Like, that's not exactly representative of me. And there isn't very many representatives of different body sizes when it comes to the hybrid space at the moment. I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think with Hyrox specifically, I feel as though because you can get involved in, you know, any background really, it's great to have running experience, it's great to have a bit of strength under your belt, but actually anybody can do it. Yeah. And, you know, some of the women that we follow, you've got 70-year-old women doing it, and it's just unbelievable. So I feel from a body image point of view, I feel under less pressure from a Hyrox point of view. Early 20s, mid 20s, when I was doing more bodybuilding activities, that's when I felt my body dysmorphia kicking quite a bit. Unfortunately, I developed quite a horrendous eating disorder, which was not pleasant at all. But I feel with Hyrox, because you've got people from lots of different backgrounds, it does feel like you can quite easily fit in once you're in. I can understand why some people would look at the Hyrox community, though, and the hybrid community, and feel a little bit intimidated initially, because let's be honest, Hyrox is not easy. Anybody can do it, but it's not easy, is it? Let's be honest. 8 kilometers and 8 stations, it's a difficult slog. But it's just fantastic to see so many different people get involved. I watched a story the other day around a guy who was 45 and he did it with his son, and I was just like, it's just amazing. I really wish my son would do it with me. He's turning 17 in October, and I keep asking him to do a mixed doubles, but he's not having any of it at the moment. So yeah, from a body image point of view, I feel less under pressure from a Hyrox perspective.
So not to like bang the gong, but I actually do think Hyrox in general do a really good job of showcasing athletes that maybe aren't your stereotypical, and the media managers and the content creators within that space do a great job of showing, look at the variety of people who can tackle this sport. And obviously I assume that's 90% of all of our goals, is to make people feel welcome in the space. And probably, Caitlin, why you started Rox Queens to a certain extent in the first place.
Exactly that, Lauren. Like, you know, I think there's not many sports that are as open, I think, as Hyrox is. And I think Rox Queens embodies that. You know, we have people who are elite 15s all the way to newbies. And Leah, who was on the call, she got me into this thinking of, like, she refers to her clients as athletes. And I didn't used to think of myself as an athlete, but she's so right. Like, we are all athletes. Like, we are all wanting to push ourselves and to compete at this level. And I think that in itself is something which has no sort of, you know, strings attached to it. There's no boundaries to who can and who should be an athlete.
Natalie, have you ever felt like you needed to present your training and how you train in a certain way?
On social media?
Yeah, on socials.
So I'd like to say, I mean, girls can either back me up or disagree here. I feel as though with my specific platform, I'm very transparent about my training, and not just my training, everything else that goes with it. We talk a lot about the training side of being a hybrid athlete or competing in Hyrox, but you know, a lot of it is to do with how you manage your stress, how do you get your recovery in, are you sleeping well, are you eating well, are you hydrated? It's not just about rocking up to those sessions on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. So from my perspective, I took a lot of learns away from my 20s when I was fully absorbed as social media was growing. That's when I developed the eating disorder, body dysmorphia, etc. So I've kind of cut myself away from that. If I'm having a good day, it'll be posted. If I'm having a bad day, it will be posted, and I'll make sure that I'm transparent on any struggles that I'm going through, whether it's with my training, nutrition, sleep, hormones. I think probably 90% of my Instagram know when I'm during my period, which is interesting. Everybody's in sync with my cycle because I post about it that much, because it does impact you as a hybrid athlete massively.
Ladies, back together again. So I guess let's head on back down to Caitlin. If you've got people who are interested in hybrid, like becoming a hybrid athlete and kind of trying to explore this world, especially people who perhaps aren't necessarily from a fitness background initially, you know, what is the kind of thing you would say the main draw to taking on this, and I'm going to call it a lifestyle because arguably it is, and it will become over time?
Yeah, I think for me, a good place to start is to think about, you know, your overall goal. So if you are looking to enter a running race, I think it's thinking about that, like, just running is probably not going to be enough. Like, you need to incorporate strength training, and so that already is a bit of hybrid training. You're going to be doing your strength and your running simultaneously. And then, like we spoke about, there's so many training plans and a coach that can kind of help you to make sure that you've got that in balance and that you don't overtrain. And then in terms of just getting that support, so like whether that's Rox Queens or another community, there's lots of people and support groups out there that can advise you, like a good place to start.
So that's interesting, like mentors and resources. Girls, do you have any good ones?
There's literally so many. I mean, we've had some great people that have come and done events with us already, and I didn't make the Rebecca Mason one, but all I keep hearing is little nuggets of information from her from that event. And I met her at Birmingham last year. She did a talk with the Rox Own podcast, and just little things that she just said during that interview like just stuck with me as well. So she's definitely one that I listen out for.
I would agree with that. I've actually had a conversation with Bex today around taking up some coaching. So yeah, I would agree with that, Kim.
If you had any advice for those who wanted to join Rox Queens, what would it be? Like, what's so special about us and this incredible group of people?
I'd just say join. Like, why have you not joined? First and foremost.
If you didn't join when they saw the villa you had in Nice, then
yeah,
that's the sell point.
We don't own that, we have to say. But
No.
One day we'll have a Rox Own villa. But yeah, it's just a great place. Like we've said so many times, it's a great place to actually get some information from each other, but also just have some people to train with. This started out because, I mean, I'm kind of speaking for Caitlin here, but she started reaching out to people on Instagram saying, I'm training and I'm lonely doing it. I want someone to train with. And we end up going down a running track together and doing some running in Southwark Park. And it's, I'd been training on my own for about 2.5 years by that point. And I was like, yes, finally. And even if you just come to the odd event here and there, like just surrounding yourself with people that are doing the same thing as you, and feeling like when you go to a race now, because there's so many thousands of people there, when you go to a race, if you recognize people, that's really nice. That's a great place to be in, so that you might be running around and then suddenly you spot somebody who's cheering you and you're like, I didn't realize anyone was here that I knew, and someone just cheers you on and it gives you that little bit of boost. So yeah, join.
If you could use a word to describe, or maybe like I'll give you a sentence to describe what a Rox Queen is.
For me, a Rox Queen, she wants to better herself, and it's that reminder that she doesn't have to be on that journey alone, that she's got people that she can do it with and that are going to support her to be the best version of herself.
Leah?
For me, a Rox Queen is someone who is genuinely unstoppable, physically, mentally, outside and inside the sport, and they've got the discipline and determination to show up for themselves when they physically didn't think they could do before.
Kim?
For me, a Rox Queen is the kind of same as what Caitlin said, but if you flip it round, it's somebody that wants to support everybody else in the race as well. So someone that just wants to we're called queens, right? And we literally say that word quite a lot. We're just like, yes, queen, go do it. Like, you are on fire. Whatever level you're at, you're pushing every single day. And that is what it means to be Rox Queens.
Last but not least.
Thank you. So a Rox Queen, from my perspective, is a hybrid athlete ambassador who wants to be the best version of themselves, but as the ladies have said, support everybody else around them in their journey.
So that sums up what it means to be a Rox Queen. And I'd just like to finish on like a moment that you look back on in your career so far as a hybrid athlete that stands out to you as a moment that you truly either understood something about yourself, something that you really felt you achieved as an athlete, something that really taught you something about yourself. We'll start with you, Caitlin.
I think for me, my moment is, I had this idea for Rox Queens, and it wasn't until, obviously, you have a vision and you kind of see things unfolding in the WhatsApp group. But I had my first race in Copenhagen, my first pro race, and completely by coincidence, there was a Rox Queen who was on the wall balls when I was literally dying. And that will always be very special for me, because Meg got me through that station and followed me all the way when I was like sort of dying on the floor. She came up to me and hugged me, and she was, I just want you to know that like I'm in your community and I wanted to be there for you. And that moment for me just really encompassed what I was hoping to create. So yeah, that stands out for me.
Kim?
For me, I think the kind of biggest point from 3 seasons of racing is when I went to Malmo last October, and I had been really ill over the summer. I hadn't been able to train properly, and I, mentally was suffering a little bit as well. And I went there with absolutely no expectations, and I bumped into so many people. It was a really calm event, and I bumped into so many people that I had met, people that I didn't even know that were doing Hyrox, that I just knew from other gyms, etc. And just got me in such a great mood. And I went out with no expectations, ran a race that was the exact same time as I'd got twice before, but I came away with a second place flag. And I literally was saying to people, stop looking at the scores. I haven't got second place until they put me on that podium. And I was like, I'm not believing it. And then it happened. And it's something that I've worked towards for so long. And I, again, never thought it would happen. And then it did at that moment when you least expected it.
Natalie?
Mine's more around a moment of realisation around confidence. So I did my first Hyrox in November, and as I said at the start, I accidentally fell into it and didn't really train. And I remember I was really overwhelmed. I rocked up to the London event, didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I remember saying to my coach, I was doing a mixed doubles at the time, I was watching people do a solo, and I remember saying to my coach, well, maybe I'll do it next season. Maybe, not definitely, maybe I'll do it next season. He was like, you can do it now. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it now. So I booked one. I did Manchester, and in every solo that I've done since then, I've qualified for the world champs. So that was just a bit of a moment of realization for me that don't feel overwhelmed and get caught up in the chaos. Realize that you are capable. Be capable of anything. And it was a special moment for me. I'll never forget it.
And finally, Leah.
It's not necessarily a racing one, but it was more to do with being chosen to be an ambassador for the sport. So I was one of the UK's ambassadors for, is it 23 season? Yeah. And just to be selected for that was like a massive thing to me. Be like, I wanted to make a difference because I've found such a love for this sport, and to now be able to be like, very much in terms of the confidence thing, it was like, I didn't feel like I belonged there, but that solidified. It was like, I do belong in this community. And the fact that now I go to races and like people are like, I've seen your videos, it's helped me on Instagram, or I've been in the Rox Queens community, you've answered one of my questions in there. Like, I'm giving back to a sport that gave me quite a lot. So that for me is quite like, what's it called? My heart just feels very full, like with the whole experience, not just the race or the Rox Queen, just everything as a whole.
I think that's the perfect way to sum up how I feel every time I leave a Hyrox weekend. At no point do I ever leave feeling like I don't have so much love for every single person that I've interacted with or seen put their heart and soul on the floor, because you know what these athletes, yourselves included, go through every single day because you do it yourself, and you know the amount of training it takes. And when you see people achieve their goals, that is such a special thing. But anyway, I feel like the only way to sign this off is from our fearless leader, and she can take to the floor and deliver us some inspiring words, perhaps about people who are already within the community that, I don't know, just need that little push to get a little bit extra out of themselves today in the next few weeks going forward as we head into the new season.
I think from my perspective, take the leap and challenge yourself. I started Rox Queens on a whim. I just thought I would see if anybody else was feeling like I was. I never dreamed it would turn into what it has. So just go for it, book that race and just see what happens. Like, I always think, what is the worst that could happen? And just know that no matter the outcome, that you have all this support around you.
Ladies, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us here on the panel. And yeah, I will see you at a race sometime soon.